Welcome back to Two Homers and a Realist. This is the pregame pod leading up to the bowl victory against Florida State, where everyone is very confident that we are going to play in a bowl game. And
I'm confident we're going to play. Yeah,
you have a chance to win. Every time you play, you have a chance to win. We'll see what happens.
Except against Texas.
Even then, we could have won.
We didn't have a chance in that game.
Wow, the pessimism just rolling. But I'm not pessimistic. I'm Steve.
I'm Connor.
Lucas.
Jay.
And we have a lot to cover here in the last midweek pre-game pod of the season. Again, we're going into the bowl game in 2 days. We'll hopefully get this pod up tonight, although we're going to be late into the night watching Oklahoma State and Wisconsin. So it may be, hopefully, I'm gonna push through. I'm going to make sure I get this out there for the listeners. But we got a lot to cover to talk about going into the bowl game, but maybe more importantly, everything that's been going on here in the postseason, because a lot of volatility, I think a lot of good development. So I had a poll today on the account. Did you guys vote in the poll? Did you see it?
Yep.
Basically, the question was, how is OU's recruiting and portal season going so far in terms of relative to reasonable expectations? And I'm going to pull up the results. I stopped looking at the results at some point in the day, so I don't want to misquote it in case something came in late. Those late mail-in votes. But it looks like it didn't change much. So the question was, how is it compared to reasonable expectations? 93% said it's better. 4% said worse, and 3% said even. Now, I'm confused as can be as to how it's worse than reasonable expectations. What were your guys' answers?
Yeah, Lucas, I want to make sure. Did you take the poll, and if so, are you the one vote for worse?
I voted better.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's a trolley type of thing. Someone on
either that or a misclick.
Yeah, I would say, or a misinterpretation of the question.
Yeah.
Which it's pretty straightforward. So.
Now, I don't know if it's a rounding thing or not, but it's 28 votes, so 4 and 3. I don't know why it's not even numbers, because it has to be just one person. Even, I don't even see the even part. I mean,
I can see even, because we were projected at getting 24 signees.
But reasonable expectations to me aren't what's reasonable the day before they actually sign. It's like, what do you expect a 6-6 team to do with a new coaching staff? Like, this is phenomenal.
Well, that person might have read that thinking we're expected to sign these specific players, and literally every one of those signed. We didn't lose any. We didn't get the kid that went to
David
A&M,
Hicks.
David Hicks,
And Akana.
and we didn't get Akana. So I don't think anybody
Maybe.
really had Hicks coming here. It was a super long shot, but DeCelia Akana, there was a lot of groundswell that we were a 50-50 shot and didn't get that one. So I could see maybe saying that it was even with what we thought, because that we kind of
and maybe
I
the
guess.
Bowen expectation was there for quite a while for some people.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So
I think, to me, it
I think
seems
based
like it
off the
was
record,
phenomenally good.
the record of the team from the season we had to pull in at worst, that the worst ranking, they're a number 8 class at the worst. Anywhere
Right.
from 5 to 8, something
Right.
like that.
Best recruit. I mean, arguably, but widely assumed to be the best recruiting class in OU history.
And if you compare it
since they've been tracking these
with
things.
other classes, right? Not just where it ranks this year, but
Right,
just
that's what I'm saying.
how they value each player and add that total up. Yeah, it's.
does it change a lot if we go 9-3 this season? Do we add one more guy or maybe 2 more guys to this
I don't
class?
know if it changes.
I don't know if it's more of an addition as opposed to a retention. I mean, you may retain someone like a Colton Vasek or get someone like the Akana kid at the end of the day.
It probably hurt Vasek some.
I think Vasek is the obvious
Well, that's
one.
that's a loss. So I wouldn't call that necessarily a retention. I guess you're saying retention because he had declared here at some point.
Yeah.
You might have retained Weiss, so keep in mind portal was a part of this too.
You
I think we're doing pretty good in the net portal. I
You
mean,
might have kept that Georgia receiver, maybe.
Anthony Evans, yeah.
Yeah, if you go 9-3 with a really good offense, then you might have kept him.
which probably would have been the difference between 6-6 and 9-3 was offense. I don't know. Defense is in there too, but it's hard.
Defense is bad this
We
year.
know the
The part
offense
with
could have won a
Hicks-
couple of games.
The part with Hicks that's frustrating is he was committed.
Yeah.
Everyone's come out and said he was verbally committed to us. He did that day of switch out of nowhere, which everyone assumes is the Aggie bag coming into play. But then we still had another 45 days or so to work on him. And for him to not come full circle, then he just bought into what the Colts
The cash flow.
preaching him and the cash flow, and his dad got the job at the church, and
I didn't hear about the job at the church.
Oh no, that was Dindy's dad
Yeah,
last year. His dad got the
Dindy.
head coaching
Right,
job at the high school.
Right.
And
So-
Dindy bounced right after Lincoln left. So.
I would say two things about Hicks. One, we don't know how much money he got versus what we were offering. It could have just be the kid decided he'd rather go there, kind of like you're saying. He bought into what the Colt was selling. At some point, let him go. We're not going to get everybody, and you don't want somebody to come here who doesn't want to be here. But I don't know. At some point, also, don't you have to question someone who buys into the Colt at this point? His
Well, I also
judgment?
wonder,
like,
you-
what is
mean,
he seeing out of Texas A&M?
Kyler Murray bought into the Colt back in the day.
True, but it
But
was different.
his dad went there.
But it was different because they weren't coming off of what they've been coming off of with 5 straight years of just disappointment.
And they had someone at the helm
What makes
that
you
wasn't
believe this is going to turn it
Jimbo Fisher.
around?
Yeah.
I don't know, but
Well, and they have the most portal exits, right?
Mhm.
So
Yep.
or at least
It's like
in
23
kids
or
in the
something like
portal.
that.
I don't think it was exits necessarily.
well, and
yet.
what I find interesting about that is what you were saying. Do you want those kids that buy into the portal stuff or that buy into the Colt stuff? We haven't gone
We haven't tapped
after
into those
hardly
guys.
any of. There's one.
Yeah.
We've been talking to their running back,
That's interesting.
but everyone else we have stayed away from. So maybe we don't want any part of that. I don't know.
I happen to have a lot of confidence in this recruiting, in this coaching staff. That they're going after guys that they think fits their system, and they think is the right guy for the job. Much more than the prior staff, not just on the defensive side, but the entire football field. I think Brent Venables is going to go after kids that wholly buy into what he's trying to do, and not just go get a guy who happens to have 5 or 4 stars by his name, or happens to get a guy who's just flashy. And it seems like Lucas might disagree
I
with
mean,
this.
it's shocking to hear the words. I have a lot of confidence in this coaching staff. Like,
Why is that shocking?
It's shocking because after the season we just watched, I don't know how anybody could have, quote, a lot of confidence in this coaching staff.
I have a lot of confidence
top
in
to
their
bottom,
recruiting.
and
They've
everywhere
had
in
two
between.
They had 2 extremely good recruiting classes. Undeniably great recruiting classes.
But they still have to coach them. And they
They do.
proved this season they couldn't coach worth a shit.
Well, I disagree with that, but I'm just talking about the recruiting. I have confidence in their ability to recruit, and I think it's so far proven to be a very high level. And I believe they're recruiting the right guys, not the guys that Lincoln Riley recruited that were sort of hit and miss. And who knows what you're getting?
Well, what guys did you see on the field this year that coaching staff got in the portal and recruiting that did anything whatsoever this season?
Kanek would be one who did.
He didn't do
really
anything
well.
this season.
He did really well.
No.
For a true freshman.
He didn't.
For a true freshman.
No, I've seen true freshmen do a lot better than
He had a
Kanek
very
didn't
good
do
year
anything
for a
this
kid
season.
who's undersized,
Given the opportunity,
in his
I think he
position,
did. I
and
think he
Golden.
I think given
Colden's
given
another
the
one?
opportunity, he probably
Let's
did
say
more than what he was
Colden's
expected
probably
to
the
do.
best. Will
I'll give you Colden.
the defensive end Lualu.
Lualu.
He came on the last half of the season.
Not a difference maker, but a solid player.
Um,
Colden is the only difference maker. Gabriel,
Gabriel
I mean-
was a very effective quarterback. Versus what do you think we would have had without Gabriel?
I don't have any idea. Well, we would have had
Jackson Dart.
Jackson Dart. I'd take Jackson Dart right now
You
over Dylan
say
Gabriel.
we would have had Jackson Dart. Which makes you think we would have had Jackson Dart? He didn't come here. He had an
I mean,
opportunity.
it was between OU and Mississippi, and once they said Gabriel's coming here, Dart went to Mississippi.
How much and how much better did Jackson Dart do than Dylan Gabriel this year?
I bet statistically he didn't do better.
I bet he
Yeah, I
didn't.
bet statistically wise, yeah, for sure.
I don't know. I have a lot of
I didn't
confidence
watch him
in what
play
I'm
to say whether or
seeing
not.
with this group.
I would rather have
This is a
one over the other.
overall ranked by 24/7 number 5th class in the country, and I have a lot of confidence that that's true. I look back and I got a little bit of the benefit of hindsight. In the Lincoln Riley classes, those do not live up to those rankings. In any one, not a single one of them does, even with the Heisman Trophy winner that is in one of those classes. especially once you factor in that he was a second thought. He was not the first choice of Lincoln Riley.
I think this class speaks to the buy-in and more so the principles we're setting forth, and I've said it all season long about that. And I do have questions about Lebby and what he's running from a systemic standpoint with the offense, but you don't get someone like Jackson Arnold or some of these other guys from a receiving perspective if there isn't something set in place that there's some sort of belief that we're going to be successful going forward. So you don't get 2 5-stars if there's not a belief that Brent Venables can get you where you want to go to get to the league and be successful in what you're going to be doing over the next 3 to 4 years. So I'm with you, Steve. I think it's more so of it's been a rough season. It's taken a season to get our feet under us, but I think our feet are going to be under us a lot more in the next 12 months than what they have been in the past, 6 years or so. So I'm excited for it. I think a 5th-ranked class is nothing to scoff at, and I don't think it's fake either. I think it's a legitimate number. I think that the guys coming in are true difference makers, both from the portal and from a recruiting standpoint. So it won't be surprising to me to see a few of these guys out there on day one, whether it be 1 or 2 freshmen or even some of these guys, especially some of these guys from the transfer portal.
Yeah, I would say the 5 guys in the portal might all 5 make contributions, if not start, and be big contributors. But talking about difference makers, let's talk about the Peyton Bowen situation and the fact that we got him to flip after he, in the 11th hour, had chosen Oregon, and in the 12th hour, we won him back to OU. That seems like that was a very momentous change and really something that rescued this class from being, even though it was going to be really good, from being a disappointment. And the way the poll question today would have been answered probably is different if you don't get him to end up at OU. He did make the flip, and he's probably going to be a big difference maker. Obviously, a really big get in the defensive backfield. What do you guys think went into that situation and how we got him to flip?
Just from what other people have said, it sounds like his mom was always completely sold on Notre Dame and their academics. And he kind of, to appease her, committed there, probably, honestly, just to keep her off his back this whole time. I think Dad, you could tell by the commitment video, his dad had that grin on his face with that Oregon money.
Payday.
He was cashing that check already.
Now, we don't know anything specific for certain about any of the money, but
No, but it was an Oregon payday.
We
They weren't
believe
even
it
in the
was
picture.
big
He never
Oregon
even
money.
officially visited
Yeah.
their campus.
Yeah.
How do you get a top 10 player in the country and he came up there
13.
once on his own? He toured on his own for one time.
and he was up here at OU like 12 times.
Yeah. Yeah,
And he
it's
wore
just
OU
absolutely
gloves in practice, and I think in a couple didn't guard games, he had OU gloves on.
So who knows? Who knows what happened with him making that decision? But he obviously didn't really want to do that, and so I'm gonna guess as a family they went back and they had quite the spirited debate. And
Well,
I don't mean this in a bad way against OU. I think they, as a family, settled on OU.
Yeah,
as
is it a compromise?
I think it was.
As a family, I think he wanted to go to OU. Mom did not want him to go to Oregon. If he didn't go to Notre Dame,
he needed
I'm
to get
good with
money.
I think
OU.
Mom had Notre Dame, OU 1 and 2. Dad had Oregon money, and then OU number 2.
agreed.
Bowen himself wanted OU. His girlfriend is coming to OU to play soccer.
Is
right?
that OU?
She's here.
Or she's at OU playing soccer. His friend Jackson Arnold, who plays on his team, coming to OU. So I think he wanted to go to OU. So it was just, it was number 2 on both his parents' list, and they had it flip flopped
It was
on
an
one.
example of ranked choice voting there, basically.
Yeah.
I think it. I wonder if one. I'd love to know what money situation there actually was, and if OU just basically came to the table. And part of what I thought was interesting in reading into it as a speculation, I wonder if between him and his dad and his mom maybe and an agent, if they didn't sit around with that commitment to Notre Dame, which was completely unpulled. It was a commitment to Notre Dame the whole way down, right?
Yep.
He had it for months. Yeah.
There was no decommitment.
He never decommitted. If he wasn't waiting for Notre Dame to come to the table with some bigger offer, and the bidder never was there, and he was looking at it, and somebody at that table, including maybe a savvy agent, is saying, look, you need another bidder or OU's not going to have to pay anything for you. And so somehow Oregon enters the picture late in the game as that mystery bidder trying to bid the price up, and OU has to come to the table to then meet whatever that number happened to be, which we heard like numbers crazy, like 2 million, 1.5 million, who knows. I wonder if that was part of the calculation. And then the other observation I had that was interesting was it was if Brent got a hold of him and said, okay, now that we're done, I want to tell you, we don't do things like that at OU. You need to issue an apology about how you've treated Notre Dame fans and how you conducted yourself in that entire reveal, which I really hate all of that stuff where they put one hat on and then they put another. I don't care about the coaching staffs that affects. I care about the fans who watch this stuff and sort of live and die by it, and you're just tormenting people that you don't need to do. Just be a man and choose who you're going to choose. And it's as if Brent got a hold of him and said, no, at Oklahoma, we're not going to do that stuff, and you need to say you're sorry. And he did.
Andy threw the Notre Dame hat.
Right,
which
yes.
was
very
supposedly
dismissive.
is not...
Well,
how
watching
his
the video,
character
I didn't
really
even know that was an Oregon hat because it didn't have green or yellow
It was
on it.
pink.
Yeah, it was like red
So
or
have you
pink.
seen their uniforms? It's game by game.
That was really weird.
But after that saga is over, the on-the-field impact hopefully is extreme because I don't think we've had a defensive player ranked this high since Gerald McCoy, which was 2006.
And a damn good player. Every time we've had a defensive player this high under Brent Venables, they've been a player who made a big difference. I don't know if there were any misses among that group.
Right. I mean, the last defensive player was Caleb Kelly, who didn't pan out, which ironically was also down to OU, Notre Dame, and Oregon.
And I'll say this in Caleb Kelly's defense, he was playing on a very weak team with weak coaching. In another regime, he may be in the NFL still. It's
Well, he also
difficult.
tore 2 ACLs.
True. Yeah, there's that too.
Yeah.
But if you look at the fact that when you're playing with weak surrounding cast, it's hard to be good because you're going up and having to make the plays, and you're going up against the number one on that offense every time.
Trust me, I get it. I'm on a pop with 3 other guys.
You're just out here carrying the team.
How sore are your
Damn,
shoulders?
Jay.
It's
Damn.
my back.
Is it your back? Your
my
back's
back.
in bad shape. Well, yeah, and so speaking of things that you pulled together for us, so you have a source, and that source has come up with an interesting bit of information, and that is that it seems that Marcus Mims might
Marcus?
not, what I said.
Marvin
Marvin
Mims.
Mims.
Yeah, we've already forgotten
Marcus
about him.
Mims is definitely
Marvin
not on the
Mims.
team.
Yeah, Marcus Mims and Marvin Mims are not going to be on the team after this bowl game. Tell us more, Jay.
That's just what it sounds like. It sounds like he had called a former staff member and asked for advice about how we should handle the bowl game because he doesn't want to let his team down.
Huh.
So he wants to play, but at the same time, I don't think he wants to get injured or affect his next career move.
He needs to sit out.
Does he want to play because of just want to be a contributor to the team and the fun of playing a ball game, or does he think he needs to up his draft stock?
No, I think he just wants to fight with his team.
Okay.
I think he just wants to beat Florida State. He doesn't want to leave. He knows he's an integral member of the offense, and
So
we need
let's-
him. We need him to play honestly to really win this game. I mean, if Mims were to actually sit out, it's just another massive blow to our chances of winning this game.
Well, how much
And
of your offense would be setting out the game then between Gray and him in terms of production?
80%.
And then Theo Weiss.
It's not even.
He needs
Well,
to
he
sit out.
wasn't a
He
major
needs to
part.
sit out. He does. I mean, I said
Yeah.
in the text message, if he's not going to be a full go and he doesn't want to be a full go, then he's a no go.
Well, you have to worry about a guy like
Don't
that
give him the reps.
who's not going to want to get into a tough situation
Exactly.
Well, like-
because he's risking his
Yeah, you're gonna
draft
throw that.
status.
Are you gonna throw that block that you need to throw?
Yeah,
right.
Or are you gonna?
I got
fight the
news for
extra
you, dude.
yards?
Mims doesn't block.
But you know what I'm saying. It is interesting.
He's just going to go deep about 6 times and get one ball. Hopefully he catches it, scores a touchdown, plays a half, and then can sit out the
I
second
mean, just
half.
take out a $5 million insurance policy.
So
for one game.
it's probably not worth
No.
that, but he could take up some kind of an insurance policy, surely. So his the prediction here is that he's not going to play. Is that?
No, I think he is going to play.
No, he
I
is.
think
Oh,
he's
I'm
just
sorry.
gonna
He's
play
not going to come
limited.
back. He's not going to
Yeah.
come back.
I don't think. He's
I don't
coming
think he
back.
plays the whole game, regardless of score. I bet he plays the half.
I mean, if it's tight or we're winning or it's
Yeah,
just close, he might
bet if
stick
he-
it out and play. If we're down a couple scores quick,
Right.
his helmet's on the bench.
I would bet if it's a close game, he plays the whole way.
Yeah.
If it's
But
if
this
we're
game
winning by 45 points or
doesn't
losing by 2 touchdowns or more, I bet he doesn't play after maybe 3 touchdowns.
Well, it's
gonna
hard to
have
say
be out
who
of
it matters to. Like, to us, it doesn't really matter that much. But to them as a team, when
It
you're
probably
fighting all
matters.
year long, it might matter a whole lot.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that's part of the culture they've bought into.
Now,
I
again,
think it does
now
matter.
ironically, if we were 9-3 playing this game,
He probably
it might
out.
mean less.
Yeah.
It might not. It
Right.
actually almost means more
Right.
that we're 6-6 and we're playing up to an opponent, so to speak, rankings wise, and no one's giving us a chance.
Yeah, we're a
and yada,
9-point
yada.
dog at this point.
Trying to keep our streak of winning seasons alive, and you want to put the seniors out. This is not how anyone thought the seniors would go out, right?
Right.
So all that combined, the team might really, really, really want to win this game.
I bet they really do. I bet they want to
And then, like I said, for us, I just want to watch all the young guys, and
I bet they're not checked out at all.
I want to see Sexton do well. So I'm excited about who we've got playing tackle next year, and I want to see Sawchuck's speed. I want to see Robert Spears Jennings get some run at the safety spot, and I want to see things like that.
Well, then before we go any further, let's talk about OU score predictions, and we'll go around the horn and see what score predictions we have. I'll lead us off with the actual score. You guys are going to have some variance around the actual score, but the actual score will be OU scores 35 points. Florida State is limited to 28, which means OU gets the victory. Connor, what do you got?
I've got the same margin of victory. And the same winner. I've got 38-31 OU.
Nice. Well, that's very close to the accurate score.
Yeah, I'm right there. I'm really.
Now let's get into La La Land and hear some crazy numbers. Lucas, lead us off.
I've got Florida State 42, Oklahoma 24.
So the reciprocal, or the inverse of each other in a sense, not reciprocal, but it's
It's an ass whooping.
yeah. What is it when the thing goes front to back the same?
Palindrome.
Palindrome, yeah. So you got a palindrome score, but you got the wrong
Race car.
team winning race car. So I don't think so.
Douchebag? Oh wait, no, that doesn't. That doesn't work.
What do you got, Jay?
I have 42-30 Seminoles.
Gosh, 42
30.
handles there. So what gives you such confidence
I've
that,
watched this team play 12 games this
that
season.
Florida State's going to cover
That's what
the
gives me the
spread,
confidence. I haven't watched any Florida State games this season
and yet you think they're going to cover the spread?
because I've watched our team play 12 games.
Do you know what we are against the spread?
A lot of them in person. What are we against the spread?
I don't know, but I'm sure it's a number.
I think
I'll
it's
look
like
it up.
1-11 maybe.
No, it's actually quite. I think it's about even. So I'll pull it up.
This again is a moment that I'll
We
clearly
were favored in
I'll
10 of
clearly
the
be
games,
happy to
and
be
we lost
completely wrong.
6 of them. So it can't be close to. It can't be even.
No, I do 100% believe we can win this game. I don't think this is like OU Bama or something. There's just no chance of winning this football game at all. I think if we play really well on both sides, we can absolutely win this game. I think if the offensive line holds up better than a lot of people are thinking, and Mims does play, and the defense plays a full game. Actually, the offense and defense both have to play 4 full quarters, which
We haven't done this whole
haven't seemed to do
season.
the whole season.
No, I don't think there's been one game. Well, Nebraska.
Nebraska.
You have to say that we
Yes,
played. Yeah,
Nebraska.
We're-
Well, we shut the offense down for the whole fourth quarter.
Well, I'm going to give us credit for still
Right.
having an offense.
We
So,
we could have put up 70 against
yeah,
Nebraska.
5-7 against the spread.
And
by
I
the
would
way,
say, I
5
would
and
say
7.
this quarterback, the closest comparison that we've played this year is probably Duggan,
That's not good.
and he torched us
Yeah,
with
he
his
did.
feet. So
He did. But you know what? They play the game for a reason, and I
Money.
think that
That's why they play the game.
anything can happen. I don't know. We'll see. obviously, I'm going to acknowledge the fact that we are a dog, and we probably should be. It's hard to have very high expectations about what the team can possibly do, given especially who's setting out. Now, Florida State doesn't have a lot of players setting out, opting
Hell
out.
no,
do
they
they
don't.
Nope.
They've got first round players playing in this game.
Yep.
Which is odd.
Their DBs are freaking good, dude. I
Yeah.
watched them play that game against Florida, and their defensive backs look so damn good. Which, it's a good thing Dylan Gabriel can't throw the ball more than about 12 yards effectively, but or over the middle of the field. But it'll be interesting. I think I really do. I believe in my score. I believe in my predictions and everything else. But it will be. I think Florida State's a massively overranked team as well, though.
I would agree with that. I don't see how you couldn't argue that they're not, given the record, or given the schedule that they play.
And maybe the matchup that we have right now is indicative of that. Maybe it's a bowl committee that sees a more evenly matched team than what it actually.
I bet
what
it's
the
a bowl
rankings
committee
say.
that sees a very big dollar signs in
Viewership.
they're-
Audience,
who they're
viewership.
matching up.
I don't think
Yeah.
Florida. I mean, my score prediction is not a reflection of how good I think Florida State is. My score is a reflection of how bad I think Oklahoma is.
But both of those things are part of it, right? And when we've been good or when we've been bad, I mean, we've surprised in both cases this year. We've surprised by being better than we thought we'd be. Oklahoma State being one of those games, quarter by quarter being others. We have not played a full game where we've been bad from start to finish, except for the Texas game, which obviously has special circumstances written all over it. So this team's highly volatile, and it's hard to know what you're going to get. It wouldn't shock me if we go out and go up 21-0 and then lose the game 41-21. I could see that happening. I could see a lot of weird stuff happening.
Every scenario's on the table completely.
Yeah. It really could go any way in a number of ways. There is a chance that Florida State's overlooking us. I don't think there's any chance that we're overlooking Florida State. Not that maybe it matters,
Yeah, I don't think it matters.
but we're going to come ready to play. Florida State may be. I mean, those guys can be playing that are first-round draft picks. That doesn't mean they play first-round draft pick caliber football.
No, the biggest concern by far is our offensive line against their D ends, because their D end he's a top 15 pick in the draft, and if you've got Jacob Sexton, his first start as a true freshman, has to go against an NFL defensive end.
And
hopefully our coaches understand this. Obviously, they're going to have to chip him. He's going to have Willis, and a lot of times coming over on his side to help him block that guy, which takes away from what we want to do with something. That's the biggest concern for me.
And our best offensive weapon is sitting out. I mean, Eric Gray carried this team for the majority of the season, and he's not playing. And while we all like Javonte Barnes, we think he's going to be the guy. He still may not be there right now. Because what's the most carries he got all season in a game? 6 or 7?
Yeah, but it doesn't mean he's not capable.
No, I mean, I hope he has 150 yards and 3 touchdowns. But the guy that has had 150 yards and 3 touchdowns isn't playing in this game.
Right.
And with your 2 most important offensive linemen gone, your left and right tackle.
That's going to hurt more than Gray itself.
And not having the running back.
I would say Gray is not that big of a loss. The offensive line is the big loss. Because look back at the last 15 years of OU football. There's only maybe 2 times that you'd say, if that starting running back isn't playing, the guy behind him couldn't fill the shoes pretty closely.
I mean,
or
Gray's
as
made
closely as
If
this.
your line's making holes, it
Gray's
doesn't matter.
style, though, he makes people miss in the backfield and gains 5 or 6 yards. When Barnes, I don't think, is that kind of running back where he's going to juke a defensive end that's got through right when he takes the handoff. Mm-hmm. How many times has Barnes or did Gray take a handoff and immediately jump one direction or the other to make the first guy miss in the backfield and then gain 5 yards? When Barnes is more of a straight ahead runner, then if they're getting the pressure on the running,
then
I mean, it's going to be Barnes is going to take the handoff and get tackled.
Yeah, a lot of 3 and outs.
Yeah,
when you're running the football.
And Levy's proven that. Hey, we're just going to hurry up the whole entire damn time because I'm an idiot, and we're just going to give them the ball 72 times.
This game
instead of 18 times.
He has got to keep their.
We have to huddle.
off the field.
That has to be part of the. It has to
I
be
don't
part of
even
the game
want to
plan.
ask the question
You have to
because
huddle
I am
up.
so afraid of the answer.
I don't
being
care about
true.
the huddle.
Can he
I
do
understand
it?
why you want to huddle.
But
the game has to
regardless
be
of the
slowed
huddle,
down. It
can
has
he
to slow
slow
down.
the game down? Can he?
It has to.
I think
Can
from
he?
the very first series, I mean, okay, maybe not the first series, but as the game goes, if we're not moving the ball, you have to slow down the
do
play
you
clock
think
and
he
snap
will?
it at 10.
Do you think he will?
No.
No, I
No,
don't.
no one has faith that
No.
he will. It'll be the biggest shock in
But
the world
what
if
does
he
that
does.
say?
It says he's an
Because
idiot.
Levy doesn't learn from his mistakes.
Yeah,
Yes.
but he's not leading the team. He is simply a coordinator.
He's
I
got
think
to leave
Venables
that
leaves
part
him
of
alone.
it.
Yeah.
No way you just
Venables
let him
leaves
do
him
that.
alone.
Well, no, I'm not saying that Venables
it's not
doesn't
right.
get blamed for this too.
Yeah.
I think the blame resides both on those two. 90% and the other 10% is on the other offensive coaches.
Beatenbow.
Or if not,
Murray.
also on defensive coaches to come over and say, I don't care. Ted Roof ought to come over and say, look, I'm going to shoot you if you
Yeah.
don't
We
slow
lost
this
2
game
games
down."
for no reason.
Yeah, I would agree.
The reason was because he didn't slow the game down.
So that would be
2
a
of the
reason.
games.
So not no reason.
And almost lost the OSU game because of it.
Which I think is maybe the biggest of the sins, even though they're all three horrible, is you almost completely stole defeat from the jaws of victory there when you just unbelievably, inexplicably just decided to give OSU a million chances.
If they were
to
just a
win that
little
game.
better on offense, we wouldn't even be having a pregame right now. Mm-hmm. Because we'd only have 5 wins.
That's right.
Well, that's what's crazy is they actually are good on offense, which it gives you some hope if the defense does
hope.
play like that
Some hope.
somehow.
Some hope.
There is a legit chance.
I'll
of
give
it.
you another piece of hope. This is something that you should be hopeful about. In their infinite wisdom, this coaching staff has seen to it that we're going to use some of our reps in practice on recruits. So what do you guys think about that? We've got recruits who cannot, eligibility 0, cannot play in the game. They're getting some reps in practice. What do you think about that?
I didn't even know that was allowed.
I didn't.
And
Either.
Lucas
None
and
of
I,
us knew that was
Lucas
allowed.
and I had a big argument about this the other night, and we both came to the
But I mean, once they're signed,
same agreement.
they're
It's
on the
crazy.
team, right?
They haven't taken a class yet.
Yeah, they're
so I
not
don't-
students.
They're not
Yeah, they're
enrolled
not students.
in the school.
That's
bet
like if
they're
I
enrolled.
went down and
They
started.
can
bet
be
they're
enrolled,
enrolled.
but they're
It's
not.
like if you took a
'cause you
big
enroll ahead
donor
of
and
time.
let them let Toby Keith run a play.
So you're
What do you-
saying I've got a chance?
Well, to me, when they say they're participating in bowl practice,
I
I
could be in a
hope
bowl game.
it's just running sprints
in a practice.
and maybe Schmitty's got them in the weight room, maybe.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
they shouldn't be actively 7-on-7 drills, or there shouldn't be anything involved with
Well,
My initial thought is it is strictly PR.
I think so too.
In
And-
terms
and
of-
not stupid PR.
No, it's
but
just
good
like
PR.
showing recruits how cool we are, and we get.
They're not idiots. They're not going to waste valuable reps on
Well,
guys who can't possibly.
Yeah, Javante
Play.
Barnes and Sawchuck aren't on sitting on the side.
that. Some of the
letting
guys on the
other kid
staff
run
are
the ball.
idiots,
Right.
as proven with the conversation we just had.
They have one idiotic trait. We don't know if they're full blown idiots yet, but they're definitely on probation. Well, I don't know. Maybe it means we've got no chance, and they're like, this is all PR and marketing. We've got no chance to win this game, so we might as well milk it for all the PR and marketing we can muster. I don't know. It was just weird to see. I mean, I guess we should look around more. Maybe other teams are doing this. Maybe Alabama's got 15 guys that are getting reps in practice. I don't know. So let me ask you a theoretical question, and it ties into another, which I'm going to go ahead and ask this, even though it's going to be an off-season topic, because it may become topical based on the reality related to this first question. The first question is, would it be better for OU if Dylan Gabriel transferred? So that right now he has not definitively said that he's coming back. We know he's not going to declare for the draft. I guess that's a possibility. Would it be better long-term, all things considered, for OU, from OU's perspective, if Dylan Gabriel cut ties and we had a clean start going into the spring with Jackson Arnold?
I say no, because we have no depth at quarterback. I'd like to have a legitimate quarterback competition in the spring, through the summer, into the fall. And if Jackson Arnold wins the job, Gabriel stays on as the backup. That's the best scenario, because
Which I think he might do that.
I don't think he really has
Well,
that
that's
big of
my
a choice.
second question.
Because if you've gone through spring and it's still up in the air,
Right.
then by the time fall hits, if Jackson Arnold wins in fall
Where
camp,
are you going to go?
yeah, you can't go anywhere because he's only got 1 year of eligibility left. He's already transferred once.
Well, he could just be done with football.
I mean,
He
Or,
doesn't seem
or
like
go
that
to
type
the
of guy.
XFL or whatever. So, what do you guys think? Do you think it'd be better
Connor?
if he transfers?
I've gone back and forth on this, honestly. I mean, I love the idea of bringing in Jackson Arnold from day one and letting him just be completely raw to the system.
Knowing he's the guy.
And I've said it all along, it's a lot more soothing to go 8-4 next year with Jackson Arnold at the helm than go 8-4 with Dylan Gabriel, who just can't get over the top and get the job done.
And then Jackson Arnold doesn't have as much experience.
Exactly. So,
What
but
is a 9-3 with Gabriel?
I
and
would
a
take
s-
I
and a
would
7-5 with Jackson Arnold.
probably
That might be the trade-off.
That might, yeah, that's close. But I agree with Lucas as well. We saw what happens this year when your starter goes out, and nowadays with concussion protocol and anything else that can happen, it's not remotely out of the realm of possibility that your starter goes out for a game during the run of the season. So, and Bevel's not the answer. Booty's not the answer.
Booty will probably be gone.
And yeah, exactly.
I don't know why they're not gone now.
Evers is already gone. So
because if Gabriel gets hurt, were we going to run Wildcat the rest of the game?
Booty
One
may
of those-
not be able to be gone.
one of those
Maybe
guys-
he's not old enough to
one
go.
of those
Might not be
guys
able to
thinks that
be
they-
old enough
Well, he
to
can't
do
do
it
another
again.
transfer.
That's a good point.
Booty probably can't do another transfer.
Yeah.
Right. He's
So-
not a grad.
I don't know. I mean, but at the end of the day, gun to my head, if I had to decide, I would rather, if you gave me the guarantee of Arnold being in the system and being able to take everything on, which I guess it would be a guarantee, I would say I'd rather have Gabriel transfer and have Arnold in the system day one, being our guy, as opposed to another year Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel just hasn't shown me anything. He's been with Levy in the past. He had a full off season this season. And he still just does not look like he's remotely comfortable with the system that we're running. And just doesn't seem like he's just going to be a guy, right? So
Jackson Arnold is a very, very good player. But he's not one of the highest rated quarterbacks to ever come out of high school, even recently. And none of those guys stepped right in on campus where they were.
Very rare for a guy to step in.
And
no one steps right
but
in.
it might be what we need, though. I mean, I could chalk up Dylan Gabriel coming off injury, coming into the system as a semi-equivalent to a 5-star coming into a new system, even with the coach that's been recruiting him.
I don't know.
who's
He
super
had,
successful.
He had lots of
7,000
college
yards
experience.
passing.
And I'm not saying his stats don't speak for themselves. He statistically had a great year, but we went to most of the
As we
games
watched
this
the
year.
games.
It was not good. It's not.
Oh
good
no, he
quarterback play.
had. We don't need to go over it too much. I think we all know how up and down Gabriel was. I just don't know that if a true freshman can come in right away, I think you risk.
ruining a guy.
No, but you're going to lose some games you probably shouldn't lose early.
Right.
But is that the 7-5 to 9-3 trade-off that
Right.
you're talking
That
about?
might be the trade-off for that. But the thing with the Levy system, which was so handcuffed this year, we could not run our quarterback because we didn't have two quarterbacks. Even a serviceable
wants
backup.
to run a
he
quarterback.
has to run his quarterback. It's just the way his system is.
Yeah.
And the few times that we did kind of let Gabriel do that, it was pretty successful this year.
No, it was. Definitely. And with
But
a
you
guy
just
that's
can't
not
let him
super
do it
mobile.
all the time because we just had nobody
I mean,
else.
he's responsible for the longest run for OU this season.
It's crazy.
So I don't know, but do you think that
I-
changes
I
going into
think-
next year, though?
Maybe I'm just
No.
in a
I don't
traditional
either.
manner because this is how it's supposed to kind of take place. I'm cool with hopefully there's mop-up duty early in the season, and come 7, 8, 9 games into the season, you start to have 2 bad quarters in a row, or 3 bad quarters in a row from Gabriel, and maybe you win that game, and you start the next game, and that first quarter is just not looking pretty.
But
time to put in the young kid.
But that leads me to that, and Steve, I know you haven't really answered, but that I was literally about to ask that same question, and maybe you don't wait till 3 games. What if Arnold just wins the job outright, and you have Gabriel who doesn't transfer, who's sitting as your quarterback?
Well, that's a whole different
As your
story if he
backup.
just wins it
Well,
outright.
That's probably what I prefer.
Well,
That's probably
Yeah,
if he's instantly better than Gabriel, because Gabriel
that's
was
an
a
ideal
top
situation.
15 quarterback, honestly, in college football this year.
Right.
At worst, top 20 quarterback.
Right.
If he comes in and just straight up wins the job, well, of course, that's the absolute best case scenario.
Right, exactly. I tend to agree with Jay, although I vacillate a little bit. I don't know. What I worry about, and I think this happened to Landry Jones to a degree, and I think there have been several guys this has happened to in different respects. You get a guy in too early, and you can't, I don't know if ruin is probably too strong a word, but you can mess him up, and you don't get as much out of him as if you bring him along slowly and let them get comfortable with the game. The game never really slows down for them the way it's supposed to, so I worry about that.
I mean, who just won the Heisman this year?
Yeah.
How good and bad was he the year before for us?
Right. Yeah,
Like,
and
it's very hit or miss, and he's an extremely good quarterback.
right. And it was actually hit and miss this year. If he didn't have his feet, he didn't win the Heisman. You saw it in the Utah game that he got beat the second game. And so he even has a lot of learning and development to do.
And when did he
as
come
it
in?
is.
And he's
Game
got a year and a
5?
half.
Yeah.
What did he come in, game 5
he
or
came
6?
in game 5 or
OU
Texas.
State.
we want Caleb. I don't remember.
No, we didn't bring him in that game.
Texas.
Texas.
Was Texas his first?
I thought he came in before.
Yeah.
Well, Texas was
No,
his
it's
first
Kansas State.
meaningful appearance.
He started the next game, though.
Started against Kansas.
No, he
Or
didn't
not
start
Kan-
after Texas.
He didn't start the game after
No,
Texas.
no, that was part of the deal. Rattler started the game after Texas. He came in and filled that job, and that was the
He
first
had that comeback and
meaningful.
then start the game after
He,
that?
I'm
No,
almost certain
no,
he
he
did.
did. He did.
He had
did.
to
He
have.
did.
The We Want Caleb was before Texas.
No, I know that. And we went, and he didn't. He came in and played in
He started-
mop-up duty,
He played
but he
against
didn't
State.
play meaningfully until.
He started the game after Texas.
I don't think so.
I
Who
think
was
he
the
did.
game after Texas? Look up who the starter was.
Got it. One second.
So I tend to agree with Jay, although I do vacillate, and I think that you might be better off in the long run if Jackson Arnold is your guy, and if your first year in the SEC is 2024, then and if he's had a full season of learning as a freshman how to play at this level, that might be very, very productive for him going into a much more difficult schedule, probably more difficult schedule with the SEC. But I do worry that things don't go exactly right, and he doesn't get the development that you need. So I'm going to say if you give me the magic button to push, I keep Gabriel here, and I don't think he's going to that Jackson Arnold wins the job right away. But my second question is, when will Jackson win the starting job? I would imagine the first 3 games are not tough: Arkansas State, SMU, and Tulsa. After that, it starts to get more difficult. Whoever we play in conference play, and then probably Texas the week after or 2. At that point, I would imagine there's a 50-50 shot he wins the starting job by that point. That'd be my over-under, would be like 6 games into the season.
I think we're just jaded. Gabriel's a better quarterback than we're sitting here talking about.
I mean,
He
It's
really
so
is.
unheard
In a
of for
perfect
a true
world-
freshman to replace a starting quarterback.
In a perfect world, Gabriel looks amazing the whole season. We win a bunch of games, and Arnold comes in mop-up duty for 4 of the games.
I
and
think
doesn't
that's,
burn
I
his
think
red
that's how it's
shirt.
going to go.
And is the Kyler Murray going into the next year?
Yes, exactly.
That would be great.
He comes in the next year, and
I
he's
love your
badass.
optimism, but I don't see that happening.
I really don't. Gabriel, there's a lot to improve on, but he is still a really good quarterback. He really is.
He didn't turn the ball over a
We're
lot.
just busting his balls too hard because we're
We've seen his
We-
plateau,
we've
and
yes.
we've seen what
we want our
what we
plateau
want
to be.
our plateau to be.
And he's just not there. But in terms of winning you football games and being good enough to win 10, 11 games,
Yeah.
he can win you 10, 11
Right.
games.
And honestly, if we had a better defense and we had a few better players at better positions, easily we win a couple of games this year with just everything else flat out of him. So he doesn't have to necessarily be that much better to win marginally 2 more games that you that lost this year.
Is our receiving core better next year?
That's a good
I don't think it
question.
is.
That's gonna be tough.
That's tough.
The freshmen are gonna have to come out and do something.
Yep.
Yeah, they're gonna have to come out
All-
and really.
all-
do
I mean, if
something.
Mims is
Even the
gone,
redshirt
No.
freshman.
And Gibson and Anderson.
Gibson
are
and
gonna
and
have to
even
be
though we
someone.
didn't do much, you lose him. Mims is the biggest loss. I mean, you get Drake Stoops back. I don't think Gavin Freeman personally is like some great player.
I think it'll be better than Stoops when it's all said and done.
I don't think he will be.
I think he's faster. I think he's just a better athlete.
I don't know if he's a better
Well, faster on
Sure
deep balls is
hands.
one thing, but
running
over
routes,
middle, third
blocking.
down, running routes, block. Yeah, that's completely different to me.
Stoops will never take an end around for 60-yard touchdown the first time he ever touched the ball.
Well, no,
That's
but he's
not
just
a
not that.
that's not a major receiver move to me. On
That's just his
a
speed.
jet
I mean,
sweep. Like, okay, whoop-de-doo.
that's his one attribute to me at this point. He may end up being better than in all those other respects, but Stoops is like so dependable.
Yeah, he's the guy you count on. On 3rd and 7, he's going to get 9
Yeah,
yards.
he's an anchor.
He's also it's coming up on his 6th season. I mean,
So come back real quick.
He is
I hope
kind
he
of an
knows-
old man.
I hope he knows the
I mean,
curl
is
route.
Bunkley
I don't know.
Shelton, Bunkley Shelton may be good. Don't know.
Yeah,
Gibson,
the
It's all up in the
receiver
air.
the receiver rotation for the season was very troublesome. We
Farouk's the main guy next
we
year.
either just
Yeah.
had no confidence in the other guys at all to put him out there.
We've
Or
gone
they
down.
just
We've
weren't
gone.
good
We've
enough.
gone down the rabbit hole 1,000 times. I mean,
put out
it's
there.
it's like
The same
the-
three guys played, which
but-
is very troublesome.
And the creativity in terms of the route running and everything else was very, very, very not there. And then you have the fact that Dylan Gabriel is a one-read quarterback, in my opinion. He's a 1 to 1.5 read quarterback.
I actually have a theory about that. I think that with the number of drop balls over the middle and missed throws over the middle, high balls, and lack of balls thrown there, as well as tipped balls, I wonder if he knows that's his weakness, and if Levy's calling plays that Gabriel is not intentionally but effectively sabotaging because he looks past that read. If the read is initially over the middle, he overthrows it. If that's the second read, he looks down to the dump out route because I think we all got tired of how many balls thrown behind the line of scrimmage we
Gray.
had this year.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's Gabriel going to that route more often because he's afraid to throw over the middle.
But we also talked about him maybe not having the throwing lanes that I mean, he's about the same size as Baker, right? I mean, what?
Yeah, but
he's
the
an
same
inch shorter
size
than
and the
Baker.
ability doesn't
He's 2 or 3 inches
necessarily
taller than Baker
translate.
or than Kyler, but the throwing lanes didn't seem to be there over the middle, or he just didn't like throwing those.
I think he
one or the
doesn't
other.
like throwing them,
I
or
think
isn't
it's
as
that.
talented enough to throw them. I mean,
I don't
it's
think you
not
have
just the
enough
ability to
confidence. I
throw
don't
them;
think you
it's
have enough
confidence.
confidence.
It's being able to read when you throw it and how you throw it.
I
And
think
mean,
he has arm talent.
and
I
not
really
to be not to be read by the defensive line who can see your eyes and see when you're going to throw it and time it and knock it down. I'd love to look back at the stats if somebody could pull it and see how many tipped balls at the line he had throughout his career before he came to OU and see if it was a lot. It may be something that's just a factor in his play overall.
Well, it's just like any ball, like you just said. But any ball he did throw over the middle, or he's throwing into pressure or coverage,
Sailed.
he's zipping it in there or sailing it over the top. Like
Yep.
there's no in between. There's no finesse where I'm hitting my window and I'm confident I'm going to hit that window.
Which is essential in this type and this style of offense.
Yep.
You have to be able to hit. That's a money route. You have
Yep.
to be able to hit it over and over. You ever get an answer on that starting job?
Yeah, so it was. So Caleb Williams came in against Kansas State, had the fumble for X amount of yards in that game that we were all frustrated with.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Comes in against Texas the next week, wins the game, and then holds the starting job the rest of the season. So it goes Texas, TCU, where Caleb Williams lights it up, Kansas, where we almost lose, and then Tech, the loss
Lights
to
it up.
Baylor, the win against Iowa State, where he kills Iowa State, and then the
So
loss. to
I
Oklahoma
guess
State.
what I'm remembering is him not starting against Texas after he did have meaningful snaps against K-State.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I remember
He didn't
that
have very.
Riley
I think
didn't
he only
do
had a
that.
couple of snaps when we were up at Kansas State.
But the snaps to Steve's point were very meaningful in terms of 3rd and short, where I need you to go get a job done, Caleb, and then one of those was a 25-yard
because
mishandle
Spencer
on his
actually
part.
played well in that game.
He did. He
So-
was like a 90 some odd percentile.
So you
completion.
have really two examples that come right to mind, and they're very obviously one directly at OU, and then the other kind of adjacent to OU. You have the Spencer Rattler, Caleb Williams replacement with a true freshman, and then you have the Trevor Lawrence coming in as a true freshman, actually winning the national title at Clemson. So
Tua coming in for Jalen Hurts as well.
yeah, late in the season. That's right.
If
That's right.
Clemson would have
Was
done
he a true
that,
freshman?
Yes.
Tua?
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, he was.
If
Wow.
Clemson would have done that this year, Clemson would be in the playoffs right now.
Yeah, that's right. So coaches, and that doesn't surprise me at all, do that too infrequently, just like they don't take a lot of risk as much as they should. So it'd be interesting to see
too
if
much
they
emotion
would.
there, in my opinion.
Well, there's emotion and there's too much. The incentives are all wrong.
Yeah.
Just like they don't go for it on fourth down because they'd rather lose
Well, I
conventionally
mean, the
than win
human nature part,
unconventionally.
it's got to be tough to have your guy that you've had for a couple years, and then you have to go up and tell
It's
him.
tough.
I agree with
Real tough.
that to a point where you're getting paid millions
But
of
not the
dollars to
detriment
make
of your
correct
entire
decisions,
Right.
I mean,
and
you
you
gotta
need to be
give-
smart enough to evaluate those decisions without bias.
You got to give Lincoln credit on what he did last year. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
That
No, that was hard. That was
Yeah.
very hard.
I mean,
You've been recruiting that kid since he was like 14 years old.
yeah. I mean, he benched
You've
him.
gotta
He
bench his
benched him in
ass.
2020 during the Texas game for what the last
the,
two series
the
of
second
the
half of the second quarter.
The last two series, the first half. Is that right?
Yep.
And then Spencer came out second half,
Wins
come
the
back,
game.
quadruple overtime, all that stuff, and look good the rest of the season. So after having all that emotion and him looking really good the last half of that season, to him start off not great in the middle of the next season and say, "Hey, I'm benching you and putting this other kid in." I mean, that's some fortitude there to make that happen.
Yeah, it was
And
tough.
I would like to see if the same situation arose next year, where Jackson Arnold is the guy as a true freshman, just like Caleb was. If Gabriel is still here and leading the team and isn't getting the job done game 3 or 4, that you have the balls to do something.
Well,
about
and
it.
Well,
I
I
think
think-
it.
go
Sorry,
ahead.
go ahead.
What happened last year too is, the rumblings from people that know people on the inside and stuff. I think the team knew Caleb Williams was the better quarterback, so that makes it extra tough to continue to
play
keep
the other
Rattler going.
Yeah.
So it makes it you're giving less credit
and
to Lincoln.
that was a personality issue too. Like
Yeah.
Caleb had kind of won the team over with his leadership and like friend skills compared to
Rattler
Rattler
was very,
being
Spencer, who-
yeah,
Spencer was
standoffish and
Polarizes
everything.
people.
super ego,
Very-
all
yeah.
that kind of stuff.
So that made it an easier decision for
Right.
Lincoln. All of those.
And I
factors.
think, I mean, it would not shock me one bit if you see something similar. Not that Gabriel's guys don't have his back, because I think Gabriel is a very well liked guy in the locker room, as opposed to what Spencer was. From what we've heard, was a cocky son of a bitch and kind of just did his thing. But it won't surprise me one bit if guys on the field, there's a difference between what you see in the locker room and then translating that onto the field, where you might see a guy like Jackson Arnold going out there slinging the ball and putting it in places where Gabriel's not putting it. And what's funny is I feel like it's always that Texas game. That's always that point where it's like, this is it for you. Like,
that's the
you're
benchmark of our season.
You were either the guy
Well,
or
you're
you were not the guy.
You're 40% into the season, right?
Yeah.
40. So that's just right on that.
But you're 40% with 3 games that you should easily win in non-conference games, with 1 or 2 conference games under your belt up leading to Texas, depending on how those go. Texas is always that point where, hey, despite what you faced up to this point, this is where you're either going to make your name or I'm going to break your name. And, I think it'll be very telling to see, like Lucas said, if I'm not saying to that game in particular, but any point next season, if we see where Gabriel has a bad half or 2 bad halves, where Lebby says, let's give this kid some run, because I think what worries me is like I just said, the emotion and the stick-to-itness that this coaching staff has with guys that they've had on, and the like we saw it with Broyles this season with guys like that, where it's like, why are you in the game? Why? I don't want to get to the point next season and say, Gabriel, why are you in the game?
I would
Well,
say
Levy's got even more because he's been with 2
He's been
stops.
with him, exactly.
Well, I would say I don't know that we have enough information to know whether the staff feels that way or not. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. They must have felt that Broyles was their best option. They haven't had enough rapport with any of
I
these
would have
players
to agree with that. I defer to them.
to be like, oh well, I like this guy so much, he's got to play. No, we weren't having that kind of season. Like,
Right.
if he wasn't the best player,
Yeah.
I think they defensively, at least I can say that.
I don't know. We can go back to a lot
I
of our
think on both
we
sides.
can go back to a lot of
DeMarco,
our
like-
podcasts and say we thought differently at some point in the season. Like in my I mean
Oh no,
across not it's not just Broyles.
I
It's
think we were
multiple
all
position
willing.
spots.
I think we were willing to just put anybody else because
Right.
we felt like, holy
there has
hell,
to be
there's
someone.
gotta be
There has to
somebody
be
else.
someone better.
But
Well-
I think there just wasn't, which is unfortunate, which shows our lack of depth. It shows our lack of talent.
I'd rather see youth who is
Yeah.
more prone to
But
mess
also,
up than seniority who sucks.
hindsight. If they'd have known that we're going to go 6-6,
Yeah, that's what I was
I
gonna
think
say.
they would.
Yeah. So with the hindsight that we have, and if you gave them that information,
Which it just took them too
Which-
long to realize we were
which
losing
is really
games we
related
shouldn't.
to this question about when do you put in and what do you want to do with Arnold? If you know it's going to be a burner season and a rebuilding year, then you start the rebuilding today, I think, and you get those guys in as soon as you can.
I mean, they might have gone one game worse and gone 5-7 by making a couple of those
And be
moves
better for next year.
and be better for next year, but end your bowl game streak and all that other kind of stuff.
Well,
I
not,
would
get,
say-
not get the extra 15 practices.
I
It's your,
think it's
it's your first
actually-
year as a coach too. I mean, that kind of heat.
That's tough.
As much heat as 6-6 is, 5-7.
Yeah.
But I think it's less methodical than that and less calculated. I think they just have a belief that here's how I'm going to... Basically, they're saying, here's how I'm going to game plan this the rest of my career and how I've always done things my entire career. I'm not going to change it for one single year because they never perceive that year to be the year that we are 6-6. And honestly, in their defense, you could say, well, they're a single score away from not being 6-6 by a margin, maybe being 10-2. So very easily, they could have been something better. And at the same time, do you want him to change the channel?
Yep.
You can go ahead and say it.
Do
I
you
don't know
have the
who's got the
ESPN app on
I
your?
think
E
you don't have to have the ESPN
ESPN
app.
2.
I don't think
turn
there's
ESPN
any
too.
chance
Oh,
Arnold
ESPN too.
red shirts next year.
No, I don't think
I
so
think
either.
he's situationally putting games for his legs too.
Right.
Like I kind of like how we brought
I
in.
think that'd be a total mistake. If you think you need to redshirt him, like you're going to get 4 years out of him,
Yeah.
then that's a big coaching error.
No, he
And
needs. I think he'll be in not just mop up duty. I think he'll be in meaningful plays throughout the game,
I agree. I think
especially
that-
goal line.
I
If you
think
want to bring
he'll
him
have
in
a
goal
chance
line,
to win the job. I really do. I do think it'll be tough for him to do it. Now, even though Gabriel's been with Levy for a long time, Jackson Arnold's a guy that Levy's been recruiting for a long time. So he's got loyalty there too. So I could see him making that change quicker than what we'd otherwise expect. I just think that unfortunately they always perceive it as this thing's never a lost cause, which is kind of what you want, but at the same time you want them to have reality glasses on, and when they need to make a change, they make a change.
So
What?
we're looking at the screen right now.
is this for real?
Luke Fickell is actually coaching the game against Oklahoma State tonight.
I heard that he was going to be on the
No,
headset.
I have never seen that.
No, that's
In
never
my life.
happened. That's never
I
happened.
heard-
That has never happened.
I heard from on the radio that they said he was going to be on the sidelines with a headset,
Oh,
listening
my God.
to how everything went.
Maybe that was
And
Maybe that's what
that
this
was
is.
a poor
and that
graphic
he would
by
chime
ESPN.
he would
That's what I'm
chime in
thinking it
his
is.
thoughts, but wasn't going to be coaching.
that is insane.
No, I bet he's not the coach. I bet.
I mean,
yeah.
Brent Venables was down at the game, but he was on
He
the
was in-
sideline. Yeah,
Yeah.
Bob
He was-
Stoops was
he
coaching
was
the
hanging
game.
out.
Yeah,
Wow.
No, he won't be coaching. He won't be coaching.
crazy.
We'll see in about 5 minutes. Well, I got one more question for you guys.
Okay,
So the Big 12 schedule has not been released yet. Oddly, interestingly, what 4 teams from the Big 12 will OU not play next year? Because
Texas. They send us out and say a big
No.
F you.
No, they've already
we,
made the
I'm
we
just
will
kidding.
we will pay the money to SMU or Tulsa
I'm
to
just
get out of that
kidding.
game.
That
and
would
play
be
Texas.
crazy, though.
That would be.
I
Do
bet. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jay.
No.
I bet we don't play. I bet we don't play West Virginia. I bet we don't play Kansas State. I bet it's more like a Big 12 South, Big 12 North thing. I bet we don't play Iowa State, and I bet we don't play. They're not going to give
You
us
think they
Kansas
play all
either.
4 new teams?
That's what I was going to say.
Oh,
I was going
good
to say,
point.
I bet they might strategically have OU and Texas play all 4 new teams, just so that attendance wise for those schools and ratings wise for the TV.
Yeah, I wondered. I
don't
think
know.
of it from. I think you need to look at it like
And it might be the only time, right? So
our
I
first.
mean, it will
knee-
be the only time.
So
It will.
the business case there goes either way. So our first knee jerk reaction might be they're going to have us play
The
the
toughest
worst
schedule,
schedule
yeah.
possible. In truth, they don't care. They're not going to do it out of spite. What they're going to think is, what is the best thing for the conference strategically? And you could look at it a number of ways. One would be, where does OU and Texas, big draws, bring the most money in terms of attendance as well as viewership? And so with attendance, that's probably Kansas putting their hand up, say, please, please, please come to Lawrence.
Yep.
But then when you look at competitiveness, not that they necessarily have, I don't know how the decision exactly is made, but I bet those teams don't get to advocate. Kansas State or TCU might say, we would love not to play Texas and Oklahoma because that's two of their toughest competitors, and they'd rather be in the Big 12 championship and maximize their chances of being there. And then you look at the teams like the four new teams, Cincinnati, Central Florida, BYU, and Houston, which is just an amazing geographic dispersion. So they may think, well, I don't want OU and Texas to go there because we need to start building a rivalry as soon as we can with these existing and ongoing teams and maybe have OU play the teams that are more traditional to them. I don't know. I don't know what the best business case
I
would
bet
be.
we go to BYU and to Cincinnati. I don't know if we played the other two schools or not, but I think those two road games happen.
Be interesting.
I'd go to
Did they set us?
I think I
Those
would
I would
see
go
that.
to both those games.
yeah.
Yes.
I think I would.
I would
too.
not go to Orlando, and I wouldn't
No.
go to Houston.
No,
Nope.
not going to Houston.
Absolutely
But
not.
I would go
Well,
to
yeah, Orlando would be
BYU,
a very expensive game to
and
go
I
to.
would go to Cincinnati.
Do we think so? Have they announced? Are they setting it up where just the two top teams make the title game?
That's my
They haven't said, but
assumption.
there's not
I don't
gonna be
think they've said
divisions.
for sure.
So
yeah.
no divisions, just top two
Top
teams
two-
like
which
the
is the
Pac-12
way
is
it
doing.
should
It should
be.
be like that.
I think the Big Ten is going to go to that too,
Okay.
regardless. And I
Really,
think the SEC
with 16 teams.
I think the
I think-
SEC and the Big 10 will go to that.
This we could do this pod probably. Well, by the spring game, will they have the schedule announced?
Certainly.
Oh,
certainly.
schedule's never been this late.
Okay.
coming out.
Yeah, it was
Never.
supposed to get released like last week. like
December
2
1
weeks
is
ago.
when it
Gotcha.
usually gets
Yeah.
released.
They said mid-December was when they
Something
wanted
like
to have it out, and then it's still not here.
Hmm.
So,
Well, I'm going to say we go to Cincinnati and to BYU.
well, you know what? The schedule's probably set. They had Big 12 meetings 2 weeks ago.
And I don't know which
It
two
hasn't
teams
been
they
out
take
yet.
off.
I
I,
know,
would
but I'm
say
just saying,
What
I've
four are
still
we
made.
not going to play?
I would
is
say
my
West
question.
Virginia's off the schedule.
Yep.
I would say
Yeah, I agree with Connor and you on that.
I could see Baylor off the schedule, and then don't play Houston or UCF.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm trying to find
And
out. Like,
Texas gets UCF.
I'm trying to find a reason to believe
Houston.
or to say it's going to be one or the other. Like the same way I have confidence we're going to play Texas and Oklahoma State. I'm trying to find confidence in four teams I think we for sure wouldn't play, but I just don't see what those would be.
Well, who would be our flop away game that we would have next year that we played at home this year? So we would have
Kansas
Kansas
State.
State.
Kansas State. So they may send us to Kansas State.
Baylor, West Virginia. No, we went to West Virginia.
They
this
may send us to Baylor. I mean,
Yeah, they may send us to Waco. But again, it's just how you got to scheduling.
There's not going to be any rhyme or reason to it, no matter what.
And you've
Big
got to
12, it's
align
not gonna
things.
make sense.
In fact, there's probably a lot of back. Remember when they? I guess it was when Nebraska and A&M left the league, and Missouri and Colorado. When we had all those weird scheduling
Random
flops
home and homes.
and we did get screwed in
Yep.
those where we
Had
had
to play
twice in
Stillwater.
Stillwater.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there's a chance. I mean, I think if push comes to shove, they'll screw OU in Texas. I just don't think that'll be their first priority.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they'll look and see strategically where things are. It wouldn't surprise me if Freedom of Information Act would reveal some secret meetings where those irate athletic directors are trying to make it in a certain way.
OSU may do so much campaigning to not play us that we don't play them next year
It
Yeah.
could be.
because they've made such a big fuss about us leaving and they don't want to play us
Oh,
anymore.
I would be
But
fine
they
with
may
that.
just start that a year early.
That'd
Well,
be a
if they're
spectacular.
I don't wanna go
smart,
Stillwater again.
They won't do it because that would be the game if we win that will become the most one team has beaten
Yeah.
another team in Division 1A FBS football.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I could see him.
I can see him
that.
taking OSU off the schedule. OSU and West Virginia. Let's say.
I do think it'll happen, but I do think the OU OSU game will happen. But at the same time, I could see them doing that. It would be different if it wasn't supposed to be in Stillwater.
Yeah.
What will shock me out of my mind is if Oklahoma State comes to Norman.
2 times.
That's
in a
what
row.
I don't see happening.
No.
But who knows? Well, I think that'll be an interesting thing to see develop. We'll be back in 2 days to talk about the Sooner victory over the Seminoles and how much we are impressed by everything they're obviously putting together.
Yeah.
Regardless of that, I think things are going in a good direction, but that'll be part of what we'll talk about in the off season. There'll be a lot to talk about in the off season, leading into spring practice and all of that. But until Thursday night and the Sooner victory, Boomer.
Sooner.
Sooner.